now for Morning Rounds with CBS News medical contributors Dr. Narula and Dr. David Agus. First up, something that affects millions of Americans, dementia. There was encouraging news this week from the American Medical Association's Internal Medicine Journal, which reported a nationwide decline in the prevalence of dementia. The study compared statistics from 2000 to 2012 and found the prevalence rate of dementia among Americans 65 and older fell from nearly 12% to just under 9%. David, what is to credit for the decline?
Well, it's very positive, obviously. And, you know, it's big data. So we're not quite sure the reasons, but what we think is that dementia goes with education. The more educated you are, the less dementia happens over time. And the population is getting more educated. You know, there's wild data from Europe that every year you delay retirement, you reduce the incidence of Alzheimer's or dementia by 3%.
Wow.
So retiring 85 is,
I'm going to be working forever.
dramatically less than
Thanks.
65. But, you know, people who are more educated, they take their medicines more, they have better health care, and they use their brains more. And so the hope is that we can learn from this and actually push more people into that track.
Well, Tara, does this mean that the overall number of people with dementia is now expected to decline because we've predicted they're going to increase substantially?
Right. So these types of diseases are so frightening and devastating because they strip you of who you are. And what David said, that this gives us hope that we can find ways to reduce this risk. But the issue is that while the prevalence rate is going down, the overall prevalence or number of disease cases is expected to rise as we see aging of the population. So right now we have about 5 million Americans over 65 with Alzheimer's and dementia. By 2050, that number is expected to triple to about 13.8 million. So again, still this pressing need for aggressive research into these diseases.
David, to dig into the education piece a little bit more, so does that exist across other diseases as well?
Well, certainly, you know, people higher socioeconomic status use more health care. And so they're better at prevention, they're better at, you know, knowing what to do and hopefully taking the medicines. And what it learned for all of us in medicine is we got to educate better.
Right.
We got to push people. You don't use it, you lose it, especially with the brain. So figure out ways to be uncomfortable, to make your brain learn. You know, drive a different way to work every day. Take your watch from your left hand and put it on your right hand. Rearrange your furniture in your bedroom. They matter.
It's building new neural pathways. Is that basically what it is?
Stimulate your brain. Learn a language.
Fascinating.
Our next topic, strokes. While the overall rate of strokes has been declining for decades, the risk levels are rising for a certain age group, and it's not the elderly. A study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that over 2 time periods, one from 1995 to 1999 and the second from 2010 to 2014, ischemic strokes, which are the most common type, more than doubled in patients ages 35 to 39. Stroke rates were also up among those ages 40 to 54, but there was a decline in patients older than 55. David, what are some of the possible reasons for these increases?
You know, the generation before actually had the lowest stroke rate we've ever seen. So all of a sudden, we're seeing stroke goes up. At the same time, we're seeing weight go up, we're seeing diabetes go up. And what we know is that stroke associates with those 2 disorders. And so we got to pay attention. Again, this is a big data. We don't exactly know the cause, but these associations are real.
Tara, the study also looked at heart attack rates. What did we find?
So while the rates of stroke went up for these younger populations, interestingly, the rates of what we call ST elevation heart attacks, a type of heart attack where blood flow is completely occluded in one of the arteries to the heart muscle, those rates went down across all age groups, in particular in the young. The rates kind of petered out or stayed steady in the last 5 years of the study. But what this says is that, you know, maybe we are doing a better job with our preventive efforts, with aspirin, with statins, with decreased smoking rates. Why there's this difference between stroke and heart attack, a little bit unclear. It may be that some of the risk factors, like high blood pressure, for instance, may be more relevant for stroke at younger ages than heart attack, which may have more to do with abnormal cholesterol levels. In addition, there's other risk factors for stroke, like atrial fibrillation or abnormal heart rhythms that, again, may be more important in terms of stroke risk in the younger population. We're seeing increasing prevalence of some of those arrhythmias.
If these trends continue among younger age groups, Tara, I mean, what's the potential impact here?
You know, as a cardiologist, it's so devastating when you see young people in the prime of their life, 30s and 40s, with families working, suddenly becoming disabled. And that's the problem with a lot of these diseases. It's not just that it can kill you, it's that it can leave you crippled mentally and physically. You can't walk, see, function. And this is for the next 30 or 40 years. A lot of young people think that, you know, if I feel well, I'm I'm fine.
Right.
But these disease processes are silent, and as David mentioned, so important to take control by doing preventive measures, controlling blood pressure, not smoking, exercising, controlling weight. We can really reverse this trend.
David, how do you convince young people they're not invincible?
That's a
I
hard
mean,
problem.
it's $1 million
How do you
question, right?
Get someone at 20 to do something that help them when they're 60,
Exactly.
70, or 80.
Yeah.
It's difficult. We don't have a metric. We don't have a number for health on our watch to tell us what's going on. So that's one of the $1 million questions in health, and we got to figure out better. To me, it's education, right? You explain to somebody why. You don't tell them what to do. You explain to them why, and the behavior starts to change.
Yeah, but I mean, I've got a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old.
I know 36-year-olds who don't want to do anything for their health.
Even the best education, it's like they don't see past, next year.
I mean, it's certainly a major issue, and so there's no other way around it. The only way is that if we start to get healthier and prevent disease. I mean, it's one of the critical problems in our country, right?
Yeah.
Is that many of these diseases are delayable or preventable, and we're not doing it.
Yeah.
All right, finally, for years, we've seen the ads asking, got milk? Well, the question should be, got the right milk? Parents might assume that lower fat milk is healthier, but that might not be the case. A new study published by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition looked at more than 2,000 kids aged 6 and younger. It found that those who drank whole milk compared to 1% milk had higher amounts of vitamin D and a lower body mass index. I am surprised, David. What the what?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of ways to look at it. Again, it's not a randomized study. So maybe as kids got, more fatter, the parents said, listen, I'm going to switch them from whole milk to low-fat milk, and that's why there's association. But the other is that when you drink whole milk, you're filled.
Yeah.
And so you may not have the Twinkies or the other junk foods, and that may be. We have to learn from these associations, but it clearly doesn't necessarily show causality.
I'm a 2% guy.
I
It's kind of the compromise.
I'll drink
Look like
heavy
a 2%.
cream if I'm allowed to.
All right, Doctors David Agus and Tara Narula, thank you both very much.